NBA domination begins. Logan unlocks full-level Aomine Daiki skills. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 91. Nike's new independent brand X plan, launched in cooperation with Logan, is about to release the first regular sneakers. Against the Houston Rockets, Logan will be wearing his own new signature sneakers. Adidas head to Nike's new favorites, James Harden versus Logan's league first quarterback battle. After Nike released the news in the early hours of the morning, all the media in the United States have played 120 spirits. ESPN, TNT, ABC TV, and other media, but also in their own morning news, took a little time alone, previewed the PX1 generation of the debut color of the debut of the launch. Those of you who haven't experienced the release of AJ1 don't understand what the release of the PX1 generation means. ESPN Morning News. Stephen A. Smith said directly, "I remember that year, Michael Jordan's momentum was very fierce, and Logan this year was a bit of Michael's taste." Then all the fans who have watched the NBA and know Michael Jordan in the streets are queuing in front of Nike stores in their own cities. That will be AJ1 or the color scheme that the league prohibits. My memory is very deep. The NBA officially banned Michael Jordan from wearing those brightly colored sneakers, but Nike directly helped Michael pay the fine. Stephen A. Smith may not be able to finish the story of AJ1. After all, the story in Michael Jordan is really too strong. Now, the first regular sneakers of the second independent brand in Nike's history will be launched. Met the Lakers' shock team for the first time in the history of the opening 20 consecutive wins. And there's also the gimmick of James Harden's league quarterback battle with Logan. Stephen A. Smith directly lists these highlights. Seriously, as long as Logan doesn't hit the rookie wall today. As long as Logan doesn't pull his crotch today, Stephen A. Smith can imagine how long the next sneaker market will be dominated by the PX series. What's more, the rookie wall is for Logan. Does it exist? There is no such thing as a good one. With the passage of time, bit by bit. Later, Houston, Toyota Center. The Houston Rockets game against the Los Angeles Lakers is about to begin. Today's Toyota Center, the number of fans who came to watch the game, filled the entire stadium. As far as I know, even Rockets general manager Morey is on his way to the stadium to watch the game. Before the game, the commentator of ABC TV on the sidelines warmed up. You can imagine how much attention this game is. Actually, I don't care who will watch from the sidelines, I just want to see what Logan's PX1 generation looks like. The other commentator was very honest. Morey did not come to see the ball, what about Lao Tzu? Logan's X Plan 1 is the highlight of today. However, in the warm-up session, Logan did not have the much-anticipated sneakers on his feet. Maybe before the official start of the game, he will put on the world-renowned PX1 generation starting color. The pre-match warm-up between the two sides ended quickly. Two team starters have come on in succession. The Rockets debuted today, Patrick Beverley plus James Harden plus Trevor Ariza plus Ryan Anderson and Clint Capella. The Lakers' debut is business as usual, Russell plus Ingram plus Randu plus Little Nance and Rogan. When the eyes of the fans were on Logan, the young Laker number 7 crouched directly in front of the billboard. The next moment, the Lakers staff, trotting over to Logan's side, handed over a purple-gold shoebox. Open the shoebox. Inside is a pair of ultra-low-top sneakers, with white and gold as the main tone. The streamlined shape of the shoe is very smooth, and the obvious zoom words on the side of the front and back palms tell people that the front and back palms of this pair of shoes are equipped with zoom technology. And a cool Wolverine X scratch on the tongue of the shoe. Tell the world, this pair of white and gold ultra-low-top sneakers is the first regular sneaker in the PX series of new independent brands launched by Logan and Nike. PX1 Generation Platinum. Live broadcast to change shoes, Logan put on the PX1 Generation Simple Activities twice. I have to say that the surging foot feeling of the front and back palms zoom air cushion, as well as the ultra-low help, make the ankle unfettered refreshing. Logan quickly fell in love with his own pair of PX1 Platinum boots. As the first game to wear the PX1 generation. How can Logan give this pair of sneakers a story worth remembering for the fans? Oh, that's the PX1 generation. The commentator on the sidelines had a twinkle in his eye. Seriously, the shape of this shoe body, as well as this color matching, is a bit cool. It is said that Nike intends to create the PX series in the direction of trendy shoes. While taking into account the trend culture, the practical ability of this pair of PX1 generation is definitely the highest standard of Nike's current situation. The two commentators stared at this pair of cool, ultra-low-top sneakers, and refused to move away for a long time. It was the director behind them who told them a powerful message that made them change the subject. What's new? Morey, the general manager of the Rocket who was scheduled to watch the battle on the spot today, suffered a huge car accident on the way to the Toyota Center, 8 cars in a row of rear-end collisions, resulting in road traffic paralysis. The intense car accident situation even triggered violent explosions and fires. It is understood that the car that Mori drove privately, in the middle of the explosion, is also the most serious fire in the car accident. The onboard personnel on the remaining 7 cars have been rescued and are not in danger of life for the time being, and have been sent to the hospital for rescue. But the Rocket General Manager Mori's car, the current fire situation has not been controlled, people have not been rescued yet. Reciting the latest news from the director, the 2 commentators did not go on. Normal people can guess. 8 cars collided in a row, and then encountered an explosion, and the vehicle burned out in an instant. It would be nice if Mori could leave a whole corpse, still thinking about survival? Stop dreaming. Hearing the good news coming from the sidelines, Logan was even more energetic. Take a look at the brand new sneakers under your feet and listen to the news that Mori is basically nothing. What a great day. Episode 92, Rocket General Manager Mori basically died one in the case. The game is still going on normally. The center forwards on both sides stood on the center line and the referee threw the ball high. Nance Jr. defeated the Cajun and took the lead in handing the ball to Russell. The Los Angeles Lakers dominated the offensive possession of the opening first offense. Russell pushed through the halfway and decisively chose to give the ball to Logan's hands. Boo. Before Logan could hold the ball and defend his Ariza, he was already quickly on the defensive. Speaking of Ariza, there is still an unclear story between him and the Lakers. You know, when the Lakers won the championship during the Kobe Bryant +3 highs, Ariza's 2 key steals were indispensable. At that time, the Lakers actually thought of correcting Ariza and making him a defensive iron gate around Kobe. Unfortunately, Ariza was embarrassed. After leaving the Lakers, Kise spent a year with the Rockets, then to the New Orleans Pelicans, and then to the Washington Wizards. After years of tossing and turning, he returned to the Rocket and gradually adapted to a new 3D identity. In the face of the team's deceased, Logan did not mean to be soft at all. After all, Ariza is just an old man of the Lakers, not an old man of Logan. Whoosh! Without the slightest hesitation, Logan, who was holding the ball, dribbled directly at high speed and disappeared in front of Ariza in an instant. Breaking away from the defense and into the box, Logan confronted Capella, who pounced on him with a shooting star dunk. Aha! The basketball shoots through the net like a magic cannon. The Los Angeles Lakers take 2 points first. This? Ka Huang looked confused/forced. Before facing the Lakers, the Rockets coaching staff had studied his game video. He also studied Rogan's various scoring methods. That includes this meteor dunk. In the video, due to the resolution and compression, Ka Huang felt that this trick was just like that. But now, see for yourself, after experiencing the shooting star dunk. Capella felt, this ball is outrageous for Naima. However, the Rockets' attack did not pause in the slightest. Beverly held the ball through the half, quickly giving the ball to Harden. The bearded man faced Rogan's defense, did not say nonsense, after a continuous crotch change, protruded further into the inner line, and quickly retreated to pull away. Whoosh! As soon as the retreat came out, Harden quickly drew his gun and fired a 3-point arrow. The move of retreating to the 3-point step, in fact, Devin Booker also played very smoothly. It's just that compared with Harden, Booker's retreat is too slow, and the amplitude is not so exaggerated. Boo. Regrettably. Different people, lack of the same life. Harden retreated to take a 3-point shot and was grabbed by Logan head-on. After finishing the closure, Logan didn't even look at the stunned bearded golfer. Quickly turned from defense to attack, a dragon counterattack in front, and deduct 2 more points. 4:0. The Lakers' advantage continues. Oh, seeing this ball, James Harden's best step backwards was actually capped by Logan. The first one to one of the 2 super scoring guards seems to be James's loss. But the game is still very long, and the first round or 2 is nothing. Just like the 2 commentators chatted. The opening round or 2 is nothing. Back on the offensive end, Harden took the initiative to call his teammates to come forward and block. And he called not 1 blocker, but 2. Ryan Anderson and Ka Huang elevator door block dismantled out. Harden finally got the chance with the help of 2 teammates' consecutive blocks, and the empty 3-point throw out. Aha! The basketball scored steadily, and the bearded golfer also helped the team to open the record. This move to block the elevator door is not a tactic pioneered by Rockets coach D'Antoni. This is the tactical style of play developed by the Golden State Warriors in the previous seasons to maximize the outside firepower of the Splash Brothers. The Rockets were vomited by the Warriors with this trick and simply copied it. Of course, can this aspect of game tactics be called copying? This is called learning to use Shuri Long skills to control E. The first time he encountered the elevator door to block the demolition, Logan was also a bit unresponsive. It has to be said that the Warriors can win the championship in 15 years, and the 15-16 season has a record 73 wins. In addition to splashes, tactics like elevator doors are also one of the most important reasons. Thinking of this, looking at the seemingly serious Luke Wharton on the team bench, Logan sighed. The same as the Warrior system, how do you have a little tactics? Walton Jr. saw the look in Rogan's eyes and thought it was a gesture to increase Rogan's possession on the offensive end. With a skillful gesture, Walton Jr. gave Russell a tactical instruction to pass the ball to Logan in the half. Who said Walton Jr. had no tactics? Gave the ball to Logan at halftime. The flanks shifted wide to the bottom corner of Logan. A 45-degree cross pass on the right found Logan on the left. Serve the ball straight to the bottom line and let Logan hold the ball to complete the offensive round. Isn't this all tactical? Can we also be considered half a wisdom star? Rogan, who held the ball in advance in the middle line, has plenty of distance to assist. Only to see him throw Ariza in a super high-speed forward direction, stride to the penalty area, and face Capella with his hands held high, which is a riding buckle. Boom! The powerful dunk shook the basket. Capella's eyes were a little out of frame. Rogan's buckle was too fast, the impact was too strong, and Ka Huang felt that his internal organs were about to be shattered. Hold on, Clint. James Harden encouraged his teammates, I'll get you back on the offensive end, next round. The Rockets still offer elevator door tactics on the offensive end. Harden continuously wrapped around the double gear, opened his bow and arrows, quickly drew his gun, and prepared to shoot three-point arrows. However, the same move is unlikely to be useful twice for Saint Seiya. The first time he encountered the elevator door was caught off guard. Rogan, this time with the blessing of the wild, super high-speed bypassed the double gear dismantling, flew out, and flew the basketball in Harden's hand out of bounds. Boo! The basketball flew out of the sideline, hit the ground and bounced off, jumping directly into the second level of the stand. How powerful is Rogan's cap? This can be seen. The core of Adidas's home has been hatted by Nike's Supernova again. The commentator on the sidelines, looking at Harden and Logan in the same frame, teased, is this a foreshadowing? The PX series will press the Harden series in terms of sales? Sometimes, the performance of players on the pitch will affect the sales of sneakers. The Harden series is second only to the Ross series in sales in the field of basketball shoes in Adidas. There is basically a tendency to become the leading big brother. If this had been a match by Logan, it would have been a night back to before Liberation. Who still buys Harden must be gritting his teeth, on the X-Plan, ah. Otherwise, you're on campus, or a field court, and you're wearing the Harden collection. It turned out to be someone who was wearing the PX series. The picture is too beautiful to look at. The camera returns to the Toyota Center. The elevator door was gradually dismantled, and James Harden had no intention of conceding defeat in his eyes. After all, he still has a trick. Upgraded version of the retreat step, 3-point double retreat step. Episode 93, Retreat Step Jump Shot. In today's league where small ball is prevalent, it is the masterpiece of almost every defender. Damian Lillard's retreat has reached a state of surprise. James Harden is a master of the retreat. But do you think that one step back is the ultimate form of this move? The bearded golfer tells you, pattern. After the skill of retreating was skillfully used, Harden has been trying to find ways to make this move more lethal. In his daily training, while the bearded man continued to hone his retreat skills, he finally discovered a skill that is unique in the world. That's the double back side step. The essence of the retreat step is the big step back that does not fit the ball. But many players have stopped at the realm of retreating to the ball one step back. After many trainings, Harden found that he was fully capable of achieving a two-step retreat before the ball was closed. In this way, the shooting space will be greater. And the shooting rhythm adjusted by the second step of retreat is more conducive to completing the score. Now, the elevator block is obviously useless to Rogan. Double back side step. This trick, Harden's original mastery, is enough for him to drink a pot. The Rocket sideline ball is sent. After the bearded man holds the ball, he still follows the normal routine and raises his hand to call his teammates to come forward to block the demolition. It's still the elevator block of Ka Huang plus Anderson. The third time Logan faced this move, he was completely immune. Skillfully drilling out of the elevator block, Logan easily intercepted Harden's face. I knew you could crack it. Harden, who adjusted the rhythm of the dribble, revealed an unexpected look, but the next move, you may not even have seen it. Never seen it? Logan was a bit surprised. Is it difficult for Harden to sacrifice the back of the frame in advance? In the future league, in order to prevent Harden's retreat step shooting, many teams will even choose to defend behind Harden. This trick is also jokingly called by Tianqiao fans, face frame back hit. Logan certainly wouldn't stand behind Harden, and he wasn't afraid of the bearded retreat. Boo. Between the Lakers' number 7 thoughts, the bearded man began his own performance. Only to see him break through the three-point line at the moment, the body retreated. Still an ordinary step backwards? Logan followed Harden's footsteps, but was surprised to find that the beard did not retreat one step back to close the ball as he had liked before, but took another step back. Double retreat step. Oh, what is this? Meanwhile, the narrator on the sidelines was astonished. James Harden actually took 2 steps back? Didn't the ball go along? I've never seen a technical move to retreat 2 steps. The referee didn't say anything. Is this a good ball? The 2 commentators were confused. Supposedly, if the referee does not blow, it is absolutely no problem. But this ball Harden looks like a walk. Double back step is also allowed by the rules? Watch this ball of Harden open up the huge space. If the ball worked, how could Logan have defended? Whoosh. While the fans in the audience looked puzzled, Harden, after the double retreat, decisively drew his gun, and the three-point arrow shot out quickly. The shot space is as vast as the ocean, which is cool. However, it was not waiting for Harden to show a proud smile. In front of him, Logan, who was short of a multi-position, took off in the same place. Under the focus of the eyes of the fans, the long arm stretched. Almost at the ultimate altitude, the giant palm is like a pincer, grabbing the basketball out of the air. WTF. Harden was stupid. As a trick of his own double retreat step three-pointer, the first appearance was caught by Logan to catch the hat. Oh, I didn't read that wrong. The narrator on the sidelines was also stunned. James Harden almost took a step backwards, only to be grabbed by Logan head-on. Logan's bounce speed is also too exaggerated. Wait. Could it be that Logan's bouncing attributes today are inextricably linked to the pair of PX1s on his feet? That pair of front and rear palm split zoom PX1 generation, is it loaded with springs to help fly Logan? Since Logan's ball took off in situ, it flew so high and so fast. It really surprised the 2 senior commentators. Generally this kind of unimaginable picture, their first reaction is, Logan definitely used certain supernatural abilities. Like that new pair of boots on his feet. Of course, the narrator only said it casually. I think that the original Vince Carr/Special Cool SHOX series sneakers is suspected of having the function of helping to bounce, so it is directly banned from appearing on the NBA court. Nike has already suffered a loss. How could they have allowed their dedicated PX series to become a shoe banned by the league on its first day of debut? The sole of the shoe has a spring god horse, which is absolutely nonsense. It's just, as it is called, the speaker has no intention, the listener has a heart. All the fans who watched the game, after listening to the narrator's bold conjecture, all eyes were on the white gold PX1 generation on Logan's feet. Fans don't care if Nike will eat a long and wise one. They are only willing to believe what they see in their eyes. They saw Logan wearing a PX1 and flying anywhere. Not only did it cover Harden's retreat step three-pointer, but it also grabbed Harden's almost step-back double retreat step three-pointer. Leaving aside the physical qualities of the bug at all. The pair of PX1 generation platinum color matching on his feet must have a problem. For a time on Twitter, the hot topic of this pair of PX1 generations on Logan's feet has sprung up like mushrooms. Nike headquarters. Phil Knight looked confused. Nike's original plan was to create momentum, hype up, and increase brand heat before the start of the Rockets and Lakers game. Then, after the game, according to what happened during the game, the topic of the PX series was raised again. As a result, now, in the course of the game, Logan has used his performance to let the brand name of Project X occupy the top 5 positions on Twitter's hot search list. This does not even require Nike to shoot. The popularity of the PX1 generation has been high. I don't know how many fans want to get their hands on this pair of PX boots in the first place. If I were the PX1 generation, can I dunk? Did I become the strongest 175 at U Tokyo and almost wear a pair of PX1 generations? Really ask, LZ is 165 this year. If you buy a pair of PX1 generation, do you have a chance to enter the NBA? On Twitter, interesting fans of the United States send out one hilarious tweet after another. Even if the game is not over, the topic of when the PX1 generation will be released has flown to the 3rd place on the Twitter hot search list. We might be able to save a lot of money on publicity, guys. Looking at the statistics table in his hand, Phil Knight smiled and closed his mouth. I don't know if the soul of the PX1 generation has a rocket. But I'm sure that when the PX1 generation is officially released, sales will definitely soar like a rocket. Episode 94. Rogan's influence is still expanding. Due to the crazy hot discussion of fans on Twitter, even many ordinary netizens who do not pay attention to basketball games have also paid attention to this pair of PX1 generations. The appearance of these shoes themselves is very eye-catching. Cool, streamlined body with a white gold color scheme. The ultra-low top design looks like a pair of trendy cultural shoes. Coupled with the hot discussion on the whole network now, the high degree of attention is scary. Some netizens even mistakenly think that this pair of PX1 generation, what is a limited number of shoes, it is very difficult to start it. The camera returns to the Toyota Center. The eyes of the fans fell on Logan's feet, the platinum color sneakers. So much so that it is ignored that the Rockets fighting at home now, the point difference behind is getting bigger and bigger. James Harden didn't have the trouble of considering whether the sneakers on Rogan's feet had springs installed. He just wants to help the team chase back the score. But unfortunately, the point difference is not that he wants to chase, he can chase if he wants to. After the invalidation of the elevator block and the retreat step jumper, Harden sacrificed his own masterpiece, double retreat step jumper. However, even if it is a double retreat placed in front of Logan, it is a hot pot thing. Harden doesn't believe in evil. In the following game, he once again used a double retreat. Frantically tempted on the edge of the walk, the bearded golfer's 3 points were once again grabbed by Logan in the air and directly confiscated. After finishing the cap, Logan, who landed on the ground, catapulted off and slammed into the front. Under the gaze of all the fans, the dunk cut another 2 points. James Harden has run out of skills. This time, he really came to a time when there was nothing he could do. At the end of the half, the Rockets scored only 40 points at their home. Look at the Los Angeles Lakers across from them. Hit 65 points at halftime, a full 25 points ahead of the Rockets. Logan played 15 minutes in the first half and contributed 35 points, plus 5 blocks and 3 steals. Without assists, he purely relied on his personal offense plus defensive end to focus on James Harden. It has helped the team to establish the victory. Adidas's top card does not seem to be Nike's new darling's opponent. At intermission, the sideline commentator concluded, "Is James Harden completely devastated by Logan? This must have been blown up." Another commentator added, "Look at the statistics that the two handed over in the first half. Look at their respective performances at both ends of the offensive and defensive lines. Logan dominates both the offensive and defensive ends. Harden, on the offensive end, was dominated by Logan. Not to mention, Harden didn't dare to confront Logan's offense on the defensive end. Both Ariza and Beverly can only be reduced to ATMs on Logan's offensive end. How dare a bearded golfer with a defensive look on his face touch porcelain Logan?" In the Rocket locker room, James Harden could only throw the towel in his hand in anger, incompetent and furious. The halftime ended quickly, and the players on both sides engaged in a deadly fight in the first half of the third quarter. Of course, it was just the Rockets who fought to the death and put all their hopes on the team's 3 points. The Houston Rocket played a gorgeous movement at the Toyota Center. In the sound of one iron after another, the difference between the two sides gradually widened to 32 points. D'Antoni saw that the reversal was hopeless, and with a big swing, he decisively changed all the main players of the team to the off-field rest. In the end, with the Lakers' 35-point advantage over the entire game, they easily defeated the Rockets that were fighting at home. Let this inflated Texas Xiaoqiang, who had just defeated Cosmic Courage in extra time, instantly wither. I think the conversation about the league's first quarterback is over there. At the end of the game, the commentator on the sidelines said, "James Harden personally ended this topic with his own crotch pulling. No, man, don't blame James Harden." Another commentator smiled and said, "It's all because Logan's play on both ends of the offensive and defensive ends is too explosive. James Harden played today and really pulled the crotch. But the reason he pulled his crotch was because he was watched over by Logan. If you let D'Angelo Russell defend Harden and the beard doesn't give you a career masterpiece, then you're sorry for Adidas title of head. What a pity." The man who appeared in front of Harden was called Logan. I really don't blame Harden for not being strong enough. Just because Logan was too strong. In today's game, Logan played only 21 minutes. It contributed a game-high 49 points, along with 6 blocks and 5 steals. Count the 7 rebounds he grabbed at random. With 0 assists in the game, Logan contributed an alternative 4x5 stats. At the same time, the Lakers also extended the team's winning streak since the beginning of this victory to 20 games. 20 consecutive wins in the tournament. The second longest opening streak in NBA history. The Lakers started with the longest winning streak in franchise history. Aside from the 33 winning streaks in Lakers history, this wave of 20 consecutive wins is already the second longest winning streak in the history of the Lakers. Of course, in the history of the NBA, 20 consecutive wins are not in the top 3. The ancient Lakers have 33 consecutive wins, needless to say. The Miami Heat, who have won 27 straight games, was in a season not so long ago. The Warriors, who won 24 consecutive games, were 73 in last season, but unfortunately failed to win the championship. 22 wins of the Rockets, Yao Mai era, countless Tianchao fans of the good memories. Even if it is a 20-game winning streak, in addition to today's Lakers, there are also the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971. Today's Lakers are just tied for 5th in history. Rational discussion: is it possible for this year's Lakers to surpass last season's Warriors and create the best starting record in NBA history? At the evening tea, NT Symposium, Kenny Smith threw out the topic. From the perspective of the dominance shown by the Lakers so far, it is much stronger than the Golden State Warriors in the same period last season. I totally agree with you, Kenny, that the Lakers this season are a little bit stronger than the Warriors of last season, visually, senselessly. Shaquille O'Neal made it clear, aside from the fact that I'm a Lakers celebrity, I'm a Logan fan doesn't look at many factors. The Warriors, who won 20 consecutive wins last season, are already exhausted, and their winning streak is already getting more and more difficult. But if you look at the Lakers, who have won 20 consecutive games so far this season, even in today's back-to-back game against the Rockets, Logan enjoyed the treatment of clocking in and out of work in the third quarter. The Lakers created a 20-game winning streak, which was completely relaxed, and the sweat did not come out of a few drops. With Logan's health guaranteed, the Lakers surpassed last season's Golden State Warriors to create the longest winning streak in NBA history. It's not an impossible thing to do. Episode 95. The fact that the Houston Rockets were slaughtered by 30 points at home and allowed the Los Angeles Lakers to easily win 20 consecutive games shocked the entire league. Rogan, who clocked in 3 of the sections, occupied the front page headlines of all newspapers and media. In terms of Dragon Country, Logan's heroic deeds were greatly reported, and interestingly, Dragon Country media called Logan Wolverine. Without him, it is because in the Marvel Comics, the famous immortal Wolverine, also called Logan. It is said that the famous brand of the Dragon Kingdom, Seven Wolves, has rushed to the M Country to discuss the issue of commercial endorsement contracts with Rogan. Aside from these off-court topics, we still focus on the performance of the Los Angeles Lakers this season. Generally speaking, everyone thinks that the Los Angeles Lakers will be revived under the slow growth of Angelo Russell and Ingram, but no one expected that they would jump under the leadership of Logan. No one expected that this team would actually take the lead in Logan's belt and directly enter the ranks of the big favorites for the championship. In particular, the 30 points of the away slaughter of the Houston Rockets is not a simple achievement. You know, this season's Houston Rockets, after Dwight Howard left, led by James Harden can show the top talent of getting MVP in the Logan history line, and the results of leading the team are quite good. Logan actually likes James Harden, remembering that in his history line, James Harden brought the Houston Rockets, which was short of major generals, directly to the second position in the West, shocking the entire league. In the historical line without Rogan, James Harden is the brightest star in the night sky. But now, the brightest star in the night sky, under the illumination of Rogan's moon, looks super dim. No way, who told you to be born unfortunate and born in the same era as a top genius like Rogan? Now, though, Logan wasn't concerned with the record or the commercial endorsement contract, he was concerned with unlocking his skills. Logan sorted out his task list, and according to the black and blue system, he could unlock Shintaro Midorima's halftime three-point skill by beating 4 league top point guards. Today's Logan, even though his identity is a shooting guard, but the scoring methods, basically based on strong internal lines and dunks, three-pointers in Rogan's offensive means, accounting for a small proportion. Even more, many media outlets have compared Logan to the Philadelphia 76ers top performer Ben Simmons, believing that they are not three-pointers. Logan was certainly not satisfied, and Ben Simmons deserved to be compared to himself. Ben Simmons has never been a top player in Logan's concept, just a false name. Even in his own history line, Ben Simmons is also regarded as a technically lame player, dragging the Philadelphia 76ers and Emperor Embiid back legs of the good or bad. Many have even suggested that Ben Simmons be traded to improve the strength of the Philadelphia 76ers. How can someone who wants to make history and get MVP in his rookie season be compared to Ben Simmons? Therefore, Logan can't wait to add the three-point attribute to his skill panel. Logan didn't want the media to put his name together with Ben Simmons, which was a disgrace to himself. So, he's desperate to unlock his three-point skills, and we can't fall into the company of Ben Simmons. Besides, Shintaro Midorima's three-point attributes, that is a great existence. At the anime fan forum, Kuriko's basketball fans often discuss in the forum, in reality, if several people in the Age of Miracles go to the NBA draft, which ones are most likely to be selected? The answer is surprisingly consistent. Akashi and Kuriko are likely to lose the NBA draft because they are not tall enough and physically not good enough. Even though their skills are quite weird, in the NBA where physical fitness is everything, you may not have had time to use your special skills, and your body has been crushed. In particular, the skills of the two of them belong to the prejudgment category, which requires teammates to a certain extent, and there is no advantage in the draft. Ice Room and Vulcan are also highly likely to be defeated. Because of their physical fitness, rookies with this physical quality in the NBA can be said to be everywhere, and they do not appear to be sharp. Qingfeng Dahui should be selected, but the draft ranking is not necessarily very high, and the reason is basically the same as Vulcan. The person who is really predicted to be a candidate for the lottery show is the center of the Age of Miracles, Atsushi Shirahara. Tall, integrated in attack and defense, both offensive and defensive, excellent in technology, and even the ability to sculpt three-pointers, no matter which team, are happy to eat such a rookie. The person who is really predicted to have the level of Shugen is Shintaro Midorima, who seems to rank very low in the novel. Without him, the ability to shoot three-pointers everywhere is really terrible. And Shintaro Midorima can even shoot at the back, directly receiving a pass from a defender and shooting 3 points. What is this concept of the ability to shoot 3 points everywhere? For example, the historical three-point king, Stephen Curry, when he has not yet shown his super three-point ability, he has already been expensive for the NBA number 6 show. Number 6 show, that is not a person can be a person. Later, Stephen Curry showed three-point ability and immediately became the only all-round MVP in history. And Stephen Curry's three-point ability is just to be able to shoot anywhere in the half, and it is not guaranteed to hit 100% of the time, which is the only level of unanimous MVP in history. So if you think about Shintaro Midorima's three-point shooting all over the field, what is this ability? Definitely an MVP-level ability. Of course, Logan also knows that the ability given to him by the system is discounted, and it is impossible to really shoot three-pointers and 100% hits randomly in the halftime, as in the comics. However, this is at least a skill of the Yuensho level, which is worth looking forward to. As long as you beat the 4 quarterbacks, you can unlock the three-point attribute of Shintaro Midorima, and at present, Dwayne Wade, Devin Booker and James Harden have become the ghosts of their own knives, and only the last person to be defeated is Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors. A man whose body is said to be genetically different from that of a normal human being and who has 4 lungs. Here's the problem, it's easy to beat other teams, and it's not so easy to beat the Golden State Warriors. Episode 96. You know, that's the Golden State Warriors who won 73 last year, without Kevin Durant. In the previous year, this Golden State Warriors team was the NBA championship and the first in the league in defensive efficiency. This team in Logan's history line, playing the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving, it was like destroying Lavinia, 4-1. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who have LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving, are also in the top 3 levels of the league, but they are still bloodied by this Golden State Warriors. To say that the strength of this kind of team is stronger than Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls at that time, Logan can do it. Last year, the Golden State Warriors in the finals, tragically reversed by the Cleveland Cavaliers, in addition to the Golden State Warriors in the regular season to set a record too hard, and the finals 3-1 lead after the careless loss of Jingzhou, in fact, in many ways, is also the reason for off-field factors. The referee's decision, more or less, was unfavorable to the Golden State Warriors. For example, Drummond Green was directly banned, but LeBron James rode across Drummond Green, then nothing happened. After a combination of factors, the Golden State Warriors were reversed. After all, the Golden State Warriors have never been the darlings of the league, and Stephen Curry, who wears Under Armour sneakers, is not the object of the league's focus on training. Otherwise, in the finals of the previous year, the FMVP would not have been awarded to Andre Iguodala instead of Stephen Curry. Without him, Andre Iguodala wore Nike on his feet, and Stephen Curry stepped on Endema only. In Rogan's history line, James Harden and Stephen Curry are both MVP-level powers, but they have never been the focus of the league's god creation object. Without him, the two have a poor image. One shook his head and chewed braces every day, and was nicknamed Elementary School. The other bearded man was addicted to nightclubs, and his eyes were lazy. How such an image can become the object of the Alliance's efforts, it really has no door. You must know that the Alliance is a commercial alliance, and their god-making movement is also to let the Alliance get the greatest benefits, Where will you come out with such a sloppy image? Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant, that is not a handsome image, looks full of temperament. Even if LeBron James does not belong to that handsome and flowing image, but also belongs to the tough guy family, such as Van de Kozel, Dwayne Johnson and other tough guys, it also has a different flavor. Therefore, the league has always disliked James Harden and Stephen Curry, and intentionally or unintentionally targeted them, and in Logan's history line, the 30-year-old Han LeBron James still dominates the altar for a long time. The next rising star, the league has always been Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers, but unfortunately this man can't stand up to the wall, and later, the league turned its attention to the league's rising star Doncic. After all, Doncic comes from a small European country, and there is no conflict with the M country in the big country strategy. However, in the case of being suppressed, it can still be 3 crowns in 5 years, and the other 2 crowns are also a millimeter difference, which is enough to prove the strength of the Golden State Warriors, and Logan knows that it is not so easy to defeat the Golden State Warriors. Logan knew that with his own strength, he alone could beat more than 25 teams in the league. It's easy to beat other teams, but with a few teams, it can't be solved by Logan's strength alone. Even if it can be solved after the development of the complete black and blue system in the future, it will not be able to solve it now. For example, a team of the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors is difficult to deal with. To beat a team of the defending champion Cleveland Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors, they still have to rely on overall play, and it is not enough to rely on Logan alone. Logan knows that the paper strength of his current team looks awesome, and there are even 2 former All-Stars. In fact, it is completely impossible to get a hand. Organizational guard Angelo Russell, as well as newcomer star Ingram, are like his history line, in the Los Angeles Lakers, completely unsatisfactory, cannot play the strength of the kind. Because the organizational guard Angelo Russell needs to have the ball in hand, and Logan currently needs a lot of ball rights before unlocking the skills of Shintaro Midorima, resulting in Angelo Russell's ability to hold the ball and score is limited, which is difficult to play. At the same time, England is facing the same problem, the same as a player who has no ball in his hand, which is equal to waste. In Logan's memory, in his own history line, the 2 men played after trading to the New Jersey Nets and the New Orleans Pelicans, respectively, after obtaining a large number of ball rights, and the 2 could not play at all with Logan currently controlling a lot of ball power. As for the team's 2 former All-Stars, Logan can only say that he is hee. Little striker Warden, who is quite old and can play the game, is already quite good. Because of Logan's restraint, Warden has played well this season, averaging about 15 points per game. This 15-point average has been the result of Logan's best efforts, and this is only the offensive end. On the defensive end, Warden is simply a big colander, and it is broken by a single attack. Warden was able to be looked up to by Kobe Bryant and even threatened to transfer to Warden. Otherwise he would go to the Chicago Bulls and Warden as teammates because of Warden's excellent defensive ability. But Warden is completely incorruptible, and his defensive ability is not a star and a half. Logan remembers that Warden handed over a report card of 5 points per game in his own history line, and later was pressed on the bench by the Los Angeles Lakers, who could only play 1 ball a season but took a salary of more than $10 million. Even after LeBron James entered the Los Angeles Lakers, Warden has long been retired, but it still accounts for 5 million yuan of salary space for the Los Angeles Lakers every year, making it more difficult for LeBron James to reinforce. Now the performance, Logan is already satisfied enough. As for David Lee, another former All-Star insider, Logan saw him crying even more. This season, David Lee is almost the same as when he was with the Warriors, almost just a casualty stop and run, not many times at all. In order to maintain its combat value, Logan often intentionally or unconsciously sacrificed his own ball rights, deliberately feeding David Lee points. Episode 97. Otherwise, in the future, it will not be so easy to trade this dragging David Lee in the future. That's why Logan admired the strength of the Golden State Warriors, because David Lee was also like this in the Golden State Warriors in the first 2 years, with injuries and fewer appearances than now. The Golden State Warriors are forcing you to the championship with 73 wins in the case of having you an All-Star player. To know that David Lee's salary is not much worse than Kevin Durant, otherwise the Golden State Warriors have a way to eat Kevin Durant's salary space. As for the other 2 centers and big forwards. Center Julius Randle, but dare to fight. Logan remembers that later because he dared to fight, the New Orleans Pelicans played a piece of the sky, but also won a large contract of tens of millions of dollars. But this season, from the peak performance of Julius Randle, there is still some distance. But this Julius Randle, you can still use it. Big forward Larry Nance Jr. behaved like that. Modest, compared to his father, that is really a far worse. How do you match it to make your lineup stronger? Lakers general manager Kupchak has released the word, all the team's transactions are said by Logan alone, even the head coach can be fired at will. Want to trade any player, you can trade any player, as long as the player is willing to come. Including the team's potential rising star Angelo Russell, as well as the list of Ingrams, all of them can be given up and can be added to the trade list. Potential rising star Angelo Russell, as well as the chart top-up star Ingram are still very traded, and many teams are willing to get them. And even though they are very talented, they really don't match Logan's style of play, and even have conflicts, which is completely a tactical effect of 1 + 1 less than 2. At this point, Logan has begun to consider the problem of strengthening the team through trades. After all, the team is not a one-man team, it is a 5-person team. In his history line, this season's thick-browed brother Anthony Davis is already making a fuss, because under the assistance of the team's pit father 3 guards, Terry Evans, Eric Gordon and Goran Dragic, he simply could not get the ball, and the ball was shot by these 3 people. As soon as the 3 men came on the court, they began to scramble for shots, regardless of whether the thick eyebrows were alive or dead, and used the thick eyebrows as a blue-collar worker who grabbed rebounds. The absolute core of a team, and only in his 20s is already an absolute all-star, the league's #1 big forward, actually can't touch the ball in the tactical system, and is definitely the only one in the decades of the founding of the league. This season, the team finally made up its mind to drive away all of the Pit Daddy's 3 guards in exchange for all-star guard Julie Holiday, but there was no obvious improvement. As for the history line of Logan, the trade to Cousins and Rondo, that is a very late thing, and after getting these 2 people, the New Orleans Pelicans' record is still very poor, can only float on the edge of the playoffs. Sorry for their all-star lineup, there are 4 all-stars on the court. Can you, through a successful deal, get a thick-browed brother, Anthony Davis? Brother thick eyebrow Anthony Davis, in Logan's heart, is definitely a monster-level existence. In Logan's history line, as strong as Emperor LeBron James, every time he wins the championship is to match the lineup of the Big Three, and every time he is walking on thin ice. Winning is a difficult one, either relying on Ray Allen's desperate 3-point victory over the San Antonio Spurs, or falling behind 1-3 with the help of the referee and climbing the 73-win Golden State Warriors. As for the loss, it was all crisp defeats, such as the Miami Heat's Big Three at the peak, who was actually beaten by a group of veterans of the Dallas Mavericks, and the old GDP of the San Antonio Spurs, who added only a rookie face-paralyzed Leonard, and beat the Miami Heat into an inhuman form. However, after owning the thick-browed brother Anthony Davis, LeBron James and his Los Angeles Lakers sang all the way in the playoffs, and they all easily defeated their opponents. You know, the Los Angeles Lakers at that time did not even score in the playoffs last season, with a number of potential rising stars. Even though there was a reason why LeBron James was injured at a crucial moment, after LeBron James returned, the key games against the Memphis Grizzlies and Phoenix Suns did not win. The Memphis Grizzlies and Phoenix Suns, which are at the bottom of the league, do not win can only be said to be the reason for their own strength. It was also the only time in his life that LeBron James had not made the playoffs. The next year, the Los Angeles Lakers began to strengthen, although the team added thick-browed brother Anthony Davis, veteran Rajon Rondo and Danny Green, as well as outside General Bradley, but the outside world is not optimistic about the team's championship prospects, they are more optimistic about the Philadelphia 76 and Los Angeles Clippers. After all, the team also lost potential stars such as Rondo Bauer and Ingram, which are both averaged 20+ and 10 assist+ levels per game. 1 gain and 1 loss, the strength of the team has indeed increased, but whether it has increased to the level of the championship, it is really very difficult to say. As a result, in the playoffs, Bradley, who was an outside general with an annual salary of more than 10 million yuan, feared the epidemic and refused to play. And Danny Green, who also holds more than 10 million annual salaries, has a disastrous playoff performance, with a 3-point shooting rate of less than 30%, and the defense is like a paper beard, completely vulnerable. In this case, LeBron James still won the championship as he wished, and it was the easiest time in the history of winning the championship. Among them, in the Western Conference semifinals, thick eyebrow brother Anthony Davis faced the Denver Nuggets in the last-second 3-point kill, the skill of 4 stunning. Otherwise, the Los Angeles Lakers have fallen behind the Denver Nuggets 1-2, and it is still unknown who will die. It is conceivable that thick-browed brother Anthony Davis is a monster-like existence. If you can use Angelo Russell and Ingram to exchange 4 thick eyebrows Anthony Davis, even if you add some more heads, the strength of the Los Angeles Lakers will definitely have an essential leap. Meanwhile, he remembers this season's rookie with around 30 picks and 2 super valuable monsters. Episode 98. These 2 men, won for 2 consecutive years, won the Most Improved Player award. The Most Improved Player award is not so easy to get, and a Most Improved Player award can make you go from an unknown bench rookie to an indispensable main player for all teams in the league. What is the concept of the fastest player to improve for 2 consecutive years? Means that you go straight from being a rookie on the bench to becoming an all-star starter and even a strong MVP competitor. For ordinary people, being able to get it once is already a fairly high talent. Twice is not just a simple problem of talent, there are many things in it, which can be proved step by step in the future. This person is the number 29 show of this year, the Toronto Raptors' Siakam. Regarding the development of Siakam, the follow-up is also worthy of attention, but for now, it is only an unknown. The other man, with his own diligent efforts, constantly counterattacked, from a marginal rookie to an all-star player with an annual salary of nearly $20 million. An all-star player may not be a big deal, but this player, at the same time, is still defensive. What is the concept of defending a banded defense, as strong as LeBron James, who has not been selected for a defensive team for many years? This guy is the Milwaukee Bucks' number 28 show, Brogdon. Neither of them had a high pick, and Logan felt that a little manipulation would allow them both to be manipulated, just as a defender and a big forward, perfectly filling the gap after the departure of Angelo Russell and Julius Randle. In fact, the number 30 rookie Rooney is also very good, but Logan feels that the Golden State Warriors will probably not let go. While Logan swept the Houston Rockets, led the team to 20 consecutive wins, and began to think about the team's trade problems, he did not know that in the far side, there were already many hot figures in the league who began to pay attention to him. Rogan's development has attracted too much attention from the alliance. Being able to play well in position while showing absolute team dominance. Among the younger generation of players, what is missing is such a rising star. The more attention you get, the heavier the responsibility on Logan. If you can't resist the pressure, there will be a direct follow-up weakness. What Logan didn't know was that a 20-game winning streak was just the beginning, and his toughest journey had just begun. In the Cleveland Cavaliers' home training gym, Kevin Love, sweating three-pointers, was constantly throwing three-pointers. LeBron James is brooding that this year, they lost the team's number 2 breakup, Kyrie Irving, in exchange for Thomas Jr., the 175th on the surface. Obviously, Thomas Jr.'s ability is not enough to make up for the gap in Kyrie Irving's strength, not to mention that he is still injured. At the moment, Kevin Love was training like crazy, and LeBron James was sitting on the sidelines, thinking. There is not much time for him to get caught up in thinking, and there are very few people who pay attention, and Logan is one of the few. Logan's presence has surpassed too many players, which makes LeBron James very concerned. As a teammate, Logan is certainly the best partner and the best point to score. But in the future, if you are an opponent, you don't know how much trouble will await the other party, and it is when LeBron James understands this that he will realize Logan's horror. In terms of basketball focus and the hard work of training, LeBron James felt he wouldn't lose to anyone. But in terms of the talent visible to the naked eye, LeBron James, even if he is not convinced, he has to say that he is still worse than Logan. Effort can overcome the shortcomings of talent. This sentence seems to be a big joke in front of Logan. This year's situation, and the situation in Logan's original history line, has changed. LeBron James has stopped playing as a small forward and has moved to an organizational defender. The injury of the strongest 175 on the surface, Thomas Jr., is not so serious, and the remarkable play in the game is still able to average more than 20 points per game. And LeBron James constantly substituted for him, resulting in Thomas Jr.'s defensive problems, which did not appear so prominent. The entire Cleveland Cavaliers is still the league's top team. LeBron James also hopes to enter the best defensive team again after many years. Of course, discerning people can see that with this lineup, it is impossible to go too far in the playoffs, because you have to face the Golden State Warriors after the horror of supplementing Kevin Durant. However, LeBron James did not look flustered and seemed to have some countermeasures. Kevin Love finally got tired and went to the sidelines to rest and wiped his sweat with a towel. LeBron James suddenly smiled slightly and whispered as Kevin Love walked up to him, "The deal has been made." Kevin Love, listening to it, couldn't help but pause. He knew that the team had a deal. Anyway, the trade would not involve himself. Basically, it also involved Thomas Jr. However, LeBron James still frightened him when he said this, how the deal was reached in silence. Who did he trade? Kevin Love couldn't help but be curious. After all, curiosity everyone will have. He couldn't help but ask, "Boss, who the hell are you trading in?" LeBron James said coldly, "I have traded the only man in the whole league who has higher ambitions than me, and who does not know the height of the sky." Kevin Love couldn't help but pause. Before this, Thomas Jr. was also in the top 3 figures in the MVP shooting list. It's also a bit of a deal worthwhile, but who is it that makes LeBron James have such a high rating? The man whose ambition is above me. What does that mean? Kevin Love, even if he wanted to break his head, didn't know who this person was. LeBron James seemed to see through Kevin Love's mind and said coldly, right now, he's here. At this time, from outside the gymnasium, slowly walked into a burly and calm figure. Kevin Love couldn't help but sigh, too unexpected. This person turned out to be the Chicago Bulls general, Jimmy Butler? But he's also just the Chicago Bulls of the past. Since the Chicago Bulls, Derrick Rose has returned this season and brought in Dwayne Wade. After forming the Big Five, Jimmy Butler was already a fringe figure in the Big Five. Kevin Love, of course, wouldn't have known what terrible Jimmy Butler had accomplished in Rogan's history line. Episode 99. After listening to LeBron James's words, Kevin Love's words couldn't help but pause. LeBron James is absolutely unhappy with the Cleveland Cavaliers roster this year and has been looking for a deal, and Kevin Love knows the team has a deal. However, Kevin Love doesn't care about the deal, which is what doesn't matter to him. Anyway, the transaction will not involve themselves. They are indispensable figures of the Cleveland Cavaliers. How can they not trade to their heads, unless the management of the Cleveland Cavaliers is crazy, or the management of other teams is crazy, taking Kawhi Leonard or Logan to exchange for himself or the like. Of course, this kind of transaction is a dream. It is impossible to happen. Even if any deal happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Love was sure that it was basically involving Thomas Jr. However, LeBron James still frightened him when he said this. He had never heard of any deal, and how the deal was reached in silence. The object of the transaction, no doubt, should be the exchange of Kyrie Owen for Little Thomas and Claude. Who the transaction is, Kevin Love can't help but be curious. After all, curiosity everyone will have. After hesitating for a while whether to ask, Kevin Love finally couldn't contain his curiosity and asked LeBron James directly. He couldn't help but ask, "Boss, who the hell are you trading in?" LeBron James said coldly, "Traded the only man in the league who is more ambitious than me and doesn't know the height of the sky." Kevin Love played a Cold War, and he rarely heard of LeBron James, who would give such a high comment. LeBron James, but a man who is determined to surpass Michael Jordan. There is even a man with high ambitions, even tougher than LeBron James. Who is this person? Is it the recent hot Rogan? LeBron James immediately saw through Kevin Love's thoughts and said, "Just kidding, how could Logan possibly come? And I just said that this man has an iron will, a high ambition, not that this man has the same strength as me, that's it." Kevin Love patted his ass and said, "Once Kobe Bryant retires, who in the league can have the same strength as the boss?" Ahem. LeBron James said, "You're kidding, even if Kobe Bryant doesn't retire, he doesn't have the same strength as me, and his successor, Rogan, can be observed, can be expected." Kevin Love thought to himself that I had slapped my ass on the horse's leg, and he said, "Can this man top Kerry's vacancy?" Kevin LeBron James said slowly, "Have you ever wondered why I switched to point guard this year? Why?" Kevin Love thinks the answer is very simple. First, of course, because LeBron James is a year older, playing organizational guards can save more energy than playing small forwards. Second, it is also convenient for him to organize Thomas Jr., feed the cake and assist in the defense of the replacement. After all, whether it is really to use Thomas Jr. or to enhance the trading value of Thomas Jr., this must be done. Is there any other reason? Kevin Love, I really can't think of a reason for that. Kevin Love couldn't think of a reason for this, but fortunately, LeBron James quickly revealed the answer himself. I switched to organizational defenders. LeBron James said, "On the one hand, because you have to take care of Little Thomas so that he can enhance his own value, you probably have already thought of this." Kevin Love nodded slowly, for a reason, of course, he could imagine. Other than that, LeBron James said, "There's a more important reason." Kevin Love expressed surprise that there was a real reason, more important than the reason he had in mind. That's because the deal involved one person. LeBron James said slowly, "Because of this man, he is perfectly capable of taking up the position of organizational striker and replacing my job in a way." Hearing this, Kevin Love was even more surprised. Because he had the impression that there was no small organizational forward like LeBron James in the whole league. In fact, organized small forwards are very rare. Because the small forwards of the organization are basically the absolute core of the team, such as Scott Pippen, unless you have a basketball god Michael Jordan in your team. Even Kawhi Leonard, who is seen as capable of coveting the throne of LeBron James, and Paul George, a small striker who is widely regarded as excellent, have little ability to organize. French Magic Dior or Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors, they do have the ability to organize, can only be regarded as an organizational center. And they are not so much strong in organization as they are all-powerful, and their organization is more often just a response, far from the real concept of organization. In terms of organizational ability, they simply could not catch up with the hair of LeBron James. Or is this person a rookie worth looking forward to in the past 2 years? Even in the rookie, Kevin Lowe did not have the impression that there would be such a number one person. Wiggins, who claims to be the most resembling of LeBron James, known as the successor of LeBron James, is currently not even showing even a little organizational ability, and there are obvious signs of laziness. Kevin Lowe heard that this man was lazy on the field to get a 20-point goal, and after getting 20 points, he began to be passive. After a game, everyone else is tired and sweating like pulp, and Andrew Wiggins won't even sweat. He was also photographed drinking health tea leisurely in the locker room, nicknamed Health Mamba, and was ridiculed by the crowd for saying that this way of playing can definitely receive countless contracts until he is 50 or 60 years old. There is no such thing as an organized small forward, so who will this person that LeBron James is talking about? Kevin Lowe felt a pain in his head, and if he thought about it, his thick hair would be as bald as Ginobili of the Spurs. LeBron James seemed to see through Kevin Lowe's mind and said slowly, "You don't have to guess, this man is just outside the stadium right now." Hearing LeBron James's words, Kevin Lowe was shocked and said, "Players are in private contact but it is against league rules." LeBron James listened to this and rolled his eyes directly at Kevin Lowe. Episode 100. Yes, the league does strictly forbid players to contact privately, and private contact between players is a serious violation of league rules, but that is for the average player. For example, if you Kevin Love's contact with the players, it is absolutely against the rules of the league, and you will definitely be fined and suspended. Even if you Kevin Lowe is an all-star, there's no privilege to violate league rules. However, that's just because there are too many things like all-stars. But I go to LeBron James to contact the players, then it's not called contact, that's called communication, or reminiscence. Even if the alliance finds out, many times it is to turn a blind eye, at most, to warn the wind. You can't really ban LeBron James. Do you know how much less tickets the league will have to pay for the suspension of LeBron James? Otherwise, LeBron James would openly call everywhere, recruit everywhere every day, talk to this call, meet with that, and the salary may have been punished by the union. Of course, LeBron James is such a smart person that it is impossible to put these words on the surface and say that he is a privileged player who can be contacted everywhere. He can only say lightly, the transaction is estimated to be announced in an hour, so now there is no question of player contact or non-contact. Then LeBron James stretched out lazily and beckoned outside the gymnasium. "Come in." Kevin Love, who can be said to be looking through the autumn waters, would like to see who this person really is. At this time, from outside the gymnasium, slowly walked into a burly and calm figure. As soon as he walked in, he said to LeBron James with a cold face, "I'm here to help you win the championship." LeBron James laughed and said, "Absolutely welcome." The man sneered and said, "If you're not in good shape, I can also take you to the championship, such as when you only scored 9 points in the finals." Kevin Lowe was surprised. "You came to take LeBron James to the championship, are you crazy?" Even if LeBron James won a little more of the overall runner-up, but there are 3 crowns in hand, even if Kobe Bryant does not dare to say that LeBron James won the championship. Haha. LeBron James smiled and said, "When I scored 9 points, if only I could have someone like you to stand up and share my worries." Kevin Lowe's hair stood up. My God, someone dared to talk to LeBron James like this, and LeBron James actually indulged him. Listening to this attitude, people who don't know think that he is on an equal footing with LeBron James, where he speaks like a newcomer who has just been traded, and speaks so mightily and domineeringly. As we all know, the key game of the finals loss to the Dallas Mavericks, LeBron James scored 9 points, which is the biggest shame of LeBron James's life, and it is absolutely not welcome to be mentioned. This person deliberately does not open which pot to mention which pot. This is really a blatant attempt to peel off the reverse scales of LeBron James, mighty and domineering. Kevin Love quickly polished it, wanting to see who this man really was. Until after seeing it clearly, Kevin Love couldn't help but sigh. Too unexpected, this person turned out to be the Chicago Bulls general, Jimmy Butler? Kevin Lowe really never dreamed that this man would be traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This person is an inspirational model. He is only the first round of 30 picks rookie, this rookie, basically the strength of the average edge of the show, and the second round of the strength of the almost same. A strong player like Kevin Love, but the number 5 show in the little greenhouse. But Jimmy Butler, with his own efforts, from a marginal rookie, slowly became the absolute main force of the team, playing the position of the main small forward in the Chicago Bulls, and only one step away from the All-Star. However, everyone feels that the Chicago Bulls are not a strong team, and the absolute main force of this third-rate team is also like this. But he's also just the Chicago Bulls of the past. Since the Chicago Bulls introduced Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade this season to form the Big Three, Jimmy Butler is undoubtedly the worst of the Big Three, and is already a marginal figure in the Big Three. You know, Dwayne Wade looks inexpensive and old. In fact, he was still able to average 24 plus 5 per game last season. directly leading the Miami Heat to the Eastern Conference semifinals, only to lose to the opponent in the 7. The strength is still very strong. And this result was achieved when the team's other superstar, Chris Bosh, was bloodied in the lungs, reimbursed for the entire season, and possibly the entire career. It can be said that the Miami Heat, in addition to Dwayne Wade, basically does not have any players who can get a hand, so it can also break into the Eastern Conference semifinals, which is really not easy. Otherwise, how could the Chicago Bulls give Dwayne Wade a contract of nearly $20 million a year this season? Not to mention Rajon Rondo, who goes to any team and averages double digits in assists per game, but his weird temper doesn't like players and management. With Rajon Rondo's strength, even in the championship team, he can act as a starting organization defender. This season, he came to the Chicago Bulls, but also wanted to do a big job, give his future, and seek a contract that is bigger than the current tens of millions of annual salaries. These two men are on the team, and Jimmy Butler may not even touch the ball. You know, Jimmy Butler is very good without the ball, but he also needs a little bit of ball possession. Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade are all players who need a lot of possession, and the possession of the ball is not ordinary. It can be said that there is no ball to Jimmy Butler. In this system, Jimmy Butler's tactical position may not be as good as that of his other companion, blue-collar striker Gibson. That's why Jimmy Butler was willing to move to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kevin Love coughed and said to LeBron James, "Boss, borrow a step to speak." He pulled LeBron James aside and said to LeBron James, "Don't lie to me, boss, this guy is an organizational striker. Can he control the ball? Then I am also an organizational striker." When Kevin Love said this, he certainly didn't know what terrible Jimmy Butler had accomplished in Rogan's history line.